Today we're going to talk about filters for landscape photography. So in my opinion, there's really two essential filters, and that's a circular polarizer and an ND filter. Now there are other filters that you can buy, but in my opinion, these are the most important, and these are the two that I'm going to focus on. Okay, so let's start with the circular polarizer. This is the most important filter for landscapes in my opinion, because its effect cannot be emulated or reproduced during post-processing. Now its effect is very simple. It's going to remove or reduce reflected light from whatever surface you're shooting. For me, a lot of times that's foliage, that's water, pretty much any water feature except the ocean. If you're using this on like a blue sky, you'll see a lot of added clarity, a lot of added vibrance and saturation. Really, it's going to have an effect on any scene that you're shooting, except when you're shooting directly into the sun or 180 degrees from the sun. It's also very, very easy to use. You thread it onto your lens, and to apply an amount of polarization, you're just going to rotate the circular part of the filter until you get to your desired result. Now you do have to be careful because oftentimes the effect is so good that, for instance, if you're shooting in a forest, you'll get to a point where you hit 100% or the max amount of polarization, and everything actually just becomes too saturated. So I like actually backing it off just a little bit, where you remove those reflections from the leaves, from the stream, whatever you're shooting, but you also, don't get that super boost of saturation, because it does get to a point where it looks a little unnatural. But that's really where I'm using it the most, when I am in the forest, when I'm shooting a waterfall, when I'm shooting a creek, because its effect is so pronounced on water. It just adds so much clarity, it simplifies the scene. It's night and day. It's a totally different scene with a polarizer versus without one. So if you haven't used a polarizer, 100% recommend getting one. Now there are a few things to be careful with or to be careful about. One is when you're shooting this on a super wide lens, like 14 to 16, and you're shooting, say, a mountain landscape, and you have a lot of sky in your image, you will get uneven polarization in the sky because it just cannot affect or be applied across the entire range of that super wide 14 or 16 millimeter frame. So you'll get blotchiness. You'll get like one section of the sky that has the max amount of polarization and another part that has 0%. And it looks very unnatural, and there's not a good way to fix it during post-processing. So really that's the one thing to be careful about. You also will lose a little bit of light. It's around like a half stop of light. So if you really need a fast shutter speed or the fastest possible shutter speed, you're not going to want to use a polarizer. But like I said, for landscapes, it's the most important, most essential in my opinion. I almost always have a polarizer on my lens. Okay, next is a neutral density filter. So a neutral density filter is just like putting sunglasses on. It's a bright day, you go outside, you put sunglasses on, everything gets a little bit darker. So why would we want to make a scene darker or let less light onto our camera sensor? Well, we do it so we can achieve a slower shutter speed, and that can be very useful for things like blurring water. I'd say that's the number one use of an ND filter, is to blur water or to get those slow shutter speeds that give that wispy, dreamy effect to water features. But you can also do things like streak clouds. A lot of storm chasers actually use an ND filter so they can get the longest possible shutter speed, which increases their chances of getting a lightning strike. Now you can buy different types of ND filters. You can buy a variable ND filter where you can rotate the amount of stops or the amount of darkness being applied. You can also buy fixed stops, so 3 stop, 4 stop, 6 stop, and more. I think all the way up to 10 stop. This is a 6 stop. I find this works the best for me. So this is basically cutting out 6 stops of light. Now, it works best for me because I use an ND filter the most for shooting seascapes. When I'm on the West Coast or the East Coast, I'm oftentimes shooting sunrise or sunset, and I'm shooting directly into the sun during those periods. So there's a lot of available light for my sensor. It's almost impossible to smooth out water or get that nice shutter speed around like 1 second. So I'll put an ND filter on and I'll be able to shoot at like f8, my lowest base ISO, and I can get a shutter speed of like 1 second, which is ideal for me when I am shooting on the coast. So that's what I use it for the most. But if you're shooting like a waterfall during harsh light, midday, an ND filter will slow down your shutter speed. You can use it to streak clouds. You can use a 10-stop ND to get like a really dreamy water effect. Shoot like the coast at 30 seconds where the water turns into like clouds. So you can use it for a lot of different creative things. The number one use though, in my opinion, is using it to slow down your shutter speed to get that blurred water effect. Okay, quick tip. I know a lot of us out there are shooting with multiple lenses, 3, 4, maybe more than that. Now it gets really pricey if you're buying filters for every single lens that you own. Now thankfully there's a really good solution. It's called a step-up ring. Now step-up ring is essentially an adapter, and what you do is you buy 2 filters for your largest thread or your largest diameter. For me, that's 82 millimeters. Now I have a 67 millimeter thread lens right here. This step-up ring is 67 to 82. So all I have to do is just screw on the step-up ring, and now I can use my 82 millimeter filters with this lens. So depending on how many lenses you have and what thread they are, you might have 2 or more step-up rings. Personally, I have a 67 to 82 step-up ring, and I also have a 77 to 82 millimeter step-up ring. And that allows me to use 2 filters with all my different lenses. So check that out. You can save a lot of money by just buying 2 filters and then buying step-up rings for your other lenses. Okay guys, so thanks for watching. I hope this was an informative video and I hope you learned something about filters. If you do have any questions or comments, you can leave those in the area below. But otherwise, thanks for watching again, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.